Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. All right, here is today's agenda. The purpose of today's meeting is to give you the tools for success to teach and educate your residents to run a successful recycling program. So I wanted to discuss today a bit of who we are and who your designated waste haulers are within our service areas, the recycling regulations and their impact for you, what goes into these new green carts, your next steps for recycling success, the resources that are available to you, and contact information. So there are two public agencies that service the entire Monterey County, and together we work together to make sure everyone's knowledgeable on what is accepted for recycling. The blue area to the left all share one active landfill just outside of Marina that's managed by Regen Monterey. And the light green area on the right of the map all share one active landfill outside of Gonzales that's operated by Salinas Valley Recycles. When food scraps are recycled, these facilities also manage its processing to become certified compost. Do you know your waste hauler? Each of these companies are contracted to manage their city's designated waste and will also be your point of contact for establishing service. We have Green Waste that operates in Carmel by the Sea, Delray Oaks, Marina, Pacific Grove, Pebble Beach, Sand City, and Seaside. Waste Management operates within King City and unincorporated Monterey County. Monterey Disposal operates within the city of Monterey. Republic Services operates within the city of Salinas. And Tri-Cities Disposal and Recycling operates within Greenfield, Soledad, and Gonzales. So let's go over the mandatory recycling laws that affect you. You're all mostly familiar with the two-stream system, which is trash and recycling. And today we're introducing a third stream that you may or may not be aware of, which is Senate Bill 1383, which is the food scraps recycling. So we had Assembly Bill 341 that mandated mixed recycling for glass, metal, plastic, and paper. Then we had Assembly Bill 1826, which mandated organic recycling, also known as yard waste. And now we have Senate Bill 1383, which implements a food scrap recycling program and also redirects edible food to those in need. We are going to be focusing on part one of SB 1383, which is getting our food scraps recycling program implemented at your properties. Also with Senate Bill 1383, this is really the law that kind of has the teeth behind it, as we say. So as of January 1st in 2024, those properties that do not have an organics cart in place at their properties will be up for non-compliance, and fines do begin starting in January 1st of 2024. So we have a little less than 6 months for those properties that aren't in compliance to utilize those resources that are available to you to go ahead and get your service started. So a little more on what SB 1383 and how it works within our jurisdiction. Most properties can commingle food scraps and yard waste. So we can add on an additional yard waste cart, and now food scraps can be commingled into that cart. Items that are accepted are grass, weeds, leaves, branches, plant and flower trimmings, small pieces of natural wood, which are unpainted or untreated, fruit with their pits, rinds, and seeds, vegetables, including their seeds, dairy and eggshells, cooked meat and seafood, plus their cooked bones and shells, bread, grains, pasta, and nutshells, coffee grounds, and spoiled or uneaten food. So you can think of as residents are cleaning out their pantries, fridges, and freezers, they can go ahead and put most of those materials into the green cart. And you'll hear us refer to that green cart with a few words that are interchangeable, such as an organics cart, a food scraps cart, yard waste cart, a compost cart. Essentially, they're all the same and they all accept most of the same materials. So what's not accepted in the green carts is just as important as what is accepted. You can see by the picture on the right, this is what a contaminated load looks like when it's brought to us. A lot of this material we cannot turn into compost or mulch. Somebody either has to personally go in and pick these materials out, which is additional labor, or it has to add on the labor to be sent on over to the landfill. So it makes the long trip over to the landfill. And what happens is that costs us more money, which then gets trickled down into contamination fines and fees for you and your residents. So items that aren't accepted in the carts include plastic or plastic bags, no pet waste, garden hoses, no paper, which I know can be a little confusing, but we do not accept paper plates, no paper towels, and no paper cups. No broken lawn chairs, no flower pots, no pressure treated or painted wood, no bioplastics or labeled compostable plastics, no raw meat, liquids, fats, oils, and grease, no glass, no metal, no food stickers, rubber bands, or twist ties. So what are some next steps to get into compliance with 1383, as well as really get started on a successful recycling program? Is coordinating with your waste hauler. So your property needs sufficient service to allow residents to recycle at the maximum extent feasible. This will require that green cart that we talked about earlier. Your hauler can assist with waste assessments to also help you right-size your service. You'll also want to educate your residents. Residents need to be well informed of the recycling programs available at the property. So you can coordinate your efforts to maximize participation and mitigate contamination fees. This can include hosting community trainings, going door to door, and referencing our available resources, which we'll go over in the next slides. You can also find your ambassador. So is there somebody on the property who sees the importance of recycling right and expresses their concerns? Enroll them to be an ambassador for the property that can alert you when changes need to be made. They can really be the eyes on the ground. You can also schedule check-ins. So your hauler and public agencies are here to help. Keep in touch with us and request our assistance, and we can really tailor ongoing support to fit your needs. So what are the resources that are available to you? Well, Salinas Valley Recycles created a toolkit for recycling success that is really focused on multifamily properties specifically. So you can access this toolkit. It's available for download on our website. We have educational videos that are also specific to multifamily properties, one for managers, one for residents, and one even for children. And these videos are available in English and Spanish. We have bilingual brochures. We offer property manager training like what we are doing today. Your waste haulers can assist you with door-to-door trainings, community trainings, and also waste assessments. And these are on a case-by-case basis and can be requested. Here's an example of the multifamily toolkit for recycling success that's been created for multifamily. So we have one for property managers and owners, and we have one for residents. So for property owners and managers, we have an organics and recycling program checklist. So that way you can really make sure that your disposal area is set up for success, including all of the correct labels for each container. The toolkit for success that are for residents, these are a couple of example pages from our toolkit. It's a really hardy toolkit, and you can pick and choose what pages work best for you, or simply download the entire toolkit and have that available to all of your residents, including your new residents. Some other example resources that are available to you. We have a flyer that's been created where we encourage residents to use a repurposed container for their food scraps collection within their kitchen. So examples include ice cream pails, coffee containers, yogurt containers, and really the list goes on. But essentially, we're encouraging residents to use a container that's already in circulation and something that they may need to get rid of at some point, that they can go down to those shared carts, empty that container, give the container a little wipe, and then put that into the recycle bin. We also have the labels that I mentioned for all of the containers, including the food scraps container. These are examples of the videos that I had mentioned. These are shareable videos. So as you're educating residents, you can send them these videos. You can play them in a community training. They are available in English and in Spanish. And we have one for children, one for the residents, and one for the property managers and owners. So with that, if you still need to get service set up, you'll want to contact your waste hauler to get service started. Here is a kind of all-inclusive page for contact information. You can take a screenshot of this page. This meeting is being recorded that you can access later, and we'll have the slides available on our website as well. We also included a QR code to the public agencies, Salinas Valley Recycles and Regen Monterey. I also wanted to throw in a bonus slide because you don't have to get dumped on during move outs. If you're noticing people leaving big bulky items out during their move out, you can actually coordinate a bulky item pickup with your waste hauler. So that could be something that you can also coordinate with them. And with that, I'll go ahead and end my presentation. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll go ahead and open up the floor for any questions or comments. You have your public agencies and representatives from most of the waste haulers on the call today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for joining. I know there's some technical issues, and if you joined us late, feel free to stick around and ask your questions, and we can go over some of the beginning slides again. We don't have any questions in the chat, so if anybody, oh, Robin's raising her hand. Thank you, Robin. Go for it.
Yeah, I according to the little map that you had next to the waste haulers information, does the food scraps from Salinas go to Marina, or do they go down to Greenfield?
They do go down to our site in Gonzales.
Gonzales, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. And then when are the food scrap containers going to be distributed for waste management?
So that is for the property manager to coordinate with waste management. So they need to set up service and accept a service contract. And then once those outside carts are delivered, then everyone is access to the program. So it's coordinating between the waste hauler, getting the service set up, and then educating the residents that they can utilize them.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. Lisbeth, did you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I have two questions. The first one is, do you provide information in other languages than English and Spanish? Because in Marina, we usually translate information also in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese.
That's great. We currently have our resources available in English and Spanish. We do not offer other languages at this time.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, what do you recommend that residents who do not have a yard do? And I know this is about multifamily properties anyway, but I'm running into this. Well, many people have questions. You know, I have a yard, so I can put some yard waste, some clippings or branches at the bottom of my cart. People who do not have that, it gets pretty messy, especially because the carts are so deep. So my questions are actually two questions. What do you recommend? Can they line them with anything? And are you looking into other green bins that maybe are not as deep, even if you need the deep ones, the tall ones for your trucks? Are you looking into options to have it less deep, to have the bottom way up higher so that they're easier to clean, and also they usually will provide more than enough space for people who only have one household of compostable items.
Thank you. So to answer your first question, no liners are accepted in the cart. So no bags, whether it be paper, plastic, compostable bags are accepted in the multifamily green cart. As far as putting organic material other than food scraps into the cart, there's some different troubleshooting ideas, and we listed a few on our webpage, like ideas like baking soda, definitely having them picked up weekly. So don't leave them to just not get picked up, even if it's not full. So just always have a consistent pickup. I heard the idea get passed around that if you have a landscaper, you can, that hauls the organic yard waste materials off property, you can ask them to leave a bit behind into the green cart to go on the bottom to just be like an extra buffer. Other than that, the food scraps do just need to go in there loosely. And I know it doesn't look very pretty, but that is what is accepted. Yeah, Kristen?
Another option is if you have space in your refrigerator or your freezer, you can freeze your scraps until collection day so that they don't sit there in the sun in the cart all week long. You just take it out the night before or the day of collection day, and hopefully they don't have as much time to start rotting in the cart.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Of course.
Just to chime in on the multifamily as well. I understand the appeal of a higher bottom cart. Obviously more resources to re-outfit all of the carts out there, and that's a hauler contract kind of negotiation. That's a much larger picture. But for multifamily, because it is multifamily, ideally there'll be more food scraps going in. So it won't need to be quite so big. And we've known that this is a concern. This is something that is often the very first thing someone will say is, I have, it's going to be gross, it's going to smell, I'm going to have issues. And I'm not going to lie, there's some issues that happens, but with the multifamilies that have implemented, we've actually seen pretty clean, good carts. I know Christian's been out with GA down in King City multiple times to some of those facilities. I know Mallory's seen other multifamilies in use. So there's facilities doing it, and there may be some concerns, but it hasn't been quite as bad as our fears. So I'm just going to a little open-minded. Robin and then Mallory.
I just forgot my. Yeah, the waste containers at multifamily. How, these things need to be cleaned out once in a while before, because they really do get kind of gross. So, but in a multifamily, you don't have that option. So what's the suggestion? I don't know what, like restaurants and commercial areas, I don't know what they're doing. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, it's going to be property by property. I know on the peninsula, there's a new service that you can hire and they will come and clean your carts. Not sure about how large their reach is. But it really is just a property management question. I know some of the haulers may have services to help with that, but those are usually additional fees to do that kind of cleaning. And so that would be a case by case with your hauler discussion. And yeah.
Eileen actually had her hand up. That was
Perfect,
one thing I
yes.
was going to mention, but I'll say something after.
Okay, Eileen, go for it.
I had a question about fruit flies, roaches, and raccoons. So if you have a bin out there and with a lot of fruit, it does attract fruit flies. It does attract roaches, and we've had problems with a raccoon standing on and digging in the dumpster. That raccoon will tip over the green waste bin, and then we have to clean all that up, and that's a lot of junk. And it's slimy. So how do you deal with those?
So do you already have a food waste bin on site that the raccoon's been dumping?
No, we have the raccoon digs in the dumpster.
Dumpster.
And we couldn't control it because somebody was leaving cat food out for cats, the neighbor, and raccoons came to the neighbor, started eating the cat food, then got into the dumpster. And then they did knock over a recycle bin, but a recycle bin we can pick up. It's not slimy. So suggestions on that. And then the fruit flies, because that's
Yeah.
a real issue.
Those are good questions. Liz, is your hand raised for bin locks? Or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, I was going to recommend a bin lock and then just encouraging your tenants to keep the lid closed. But otherwise, Waste Management does offer free cart exchange per cart once per year. And then other than that, we do offer to clean your carts. So Christian Thornley is on here with Waste Management. He's the public outreach and education lead in the waste, if you have Waste Management as your hauler, excuse me. So Christian, if you could drop your contact info in the chat, I'll drop mine as well, and you guys can reach out to us if we are your hauler.
Thank you, Liz. So yeah, Eileen, on the cart lock, there's several different companies and each hauler has different, probably different vendors, different ones they use. But basically what happens is the lid won't open unless it's all the way turned upside down going to a bin. So if it just falls over, it doesn't unlock to be dumped out. And so these are made specifically for waste containers for pickup. And I know that at least Monterey Disposal has tested a few of these for some of their residents that were concerned, and I'm not sure what their ultimate issue is. What we've found is that if the bins are closed, I think it's easier for raccoons to get into a dumpster, especially with the double lid, because they can pry one open versus one of the rolling carts. It's harder for them to stand on it and open it at the same time. So if it's not, against something else for them to pry it open. The fruit flies, that can be an issue, and it is hard. That's a hard thing to manage with multiple people in a facility. And this is where the ambassadors really get to shine and come in. If there's something on top of the bin, put a little something else on top of it to reduce those fruit flies. But the whole purpose of the weekly pickup is based on vermin reproduction rates. So weekly pickup will reduce long-term explosion of flies. Mallory, I know you have.
Sure. So I'm Mallory Treelevin with Tri-Cities Disposal and Recycling. We service the cities of Gonzales, Greenfield, and Soledad. One of the multifamily persons that I know your team's been in contact with was trying an idea, which was keeping a 5-gallon bucket with a lid next to the cart outdoors, maybe even in a shady area, which would be helpful as well. And then the evening before collection, dumping those food scraps in there. So I think that would be something helpful to test out if it fits your property, to do that on a weekly basis, so that you're really keeping everything in that container secure, and it's only spending a certain number of hours in your organics cart. So that's one idea to try as well.
One of the problems is people don't throw their stuff out until it's starting to rot. So say the trash has just been dumped. The people are in their apartment. They don't wait. And if the food's good, they're not going to throw it out. They're waiting until it's scrapped. So they're throwing it out day one in the new container, but their food's already rotting. Their food may already have fruit flies. So then that just contaminates everything. Because people aren't going to throw out good food.
Right. And that's where the suggestion of the 5-gallon cart is rotting, and it is already starting to get odors and potentially flies if it's in their house, and time to go. So the closed lid on that in a smaller container does help mitigate that. Potentially that's what some of the people we know do. So I think in a lot of these things, it really is just dependent on what works best for each property. And that's kind of where we're trying to do this train the trainer type of style, where we're trying to be here to support you, and we can come out and chat with or work with you and what would work best for your tenants. I think a lot of places that have already started haven't noticed as much of concern as we considered. So it really does depend on how your tenants are using the cart, and if they're filling it up with a lot of fruit or different things that attract different stuff. But we do need to remember that this material is already in the garbage. It's just now in a different container. So I think that's the biggest shift, is going from that material is already there and going in the dumpster to there and going in the food scraps cart.
So another question about that 5-gallon. Now, can a raccoon get into that one? See, then we have that issue about we're trying to avoid fruit flies, then we're having this raccoon tipping stuff over.
A well-sealed 5-gallon bucket, no. They won't be able to pry that open. Thankfully, I bring my 5-gallon bucket full of very gross things to our worms here at work, and it fell over in my car the other day and did not spill. So I'm all about votes for the 5-gallon bucket and keeping that sealed. It does make it more anaerobic because there's no air vents in there. So when you open that to dump it into your yard waste cart, it's going to smell more than your yard waste cart would, because it's sealed versus the yard waste cart that has air, but there's less flies potentially with that. I know I'm a proponent of accepting the yuck factor. My bin is very gross, not gonna lie. But I would say that especially if you have a lot of coffee drinkers in your apartment complex, that having the coffee grounds helps a lot. My bin with a lot of coffee grounds and fruit and basically no yard waste, because I have none. It doesn't smell great and it's a little gross, but compared to my mom's, who doesn't drink coffee, mine smells a lot better. So what you're putting into it makes a really big difference. And I think part of the benefit of a multifamily is that it is a lot of different things going in. It's not going to be all just fruits or all just, leftover beans. So I think the mix of everything together kind of helps in some way. Mary?
For those who have not tried the program yet, I know there's a lot of concern. And I want to tell you that I'm an avid composter. I also have chickens that I feed a lot of my food waste to, but there's a portion of my waste stream in my own home that has to go out to the organics bin. And just a couple of things I want to tell you about my experiences. First of all, if anything smells bad in our house, my husband's going to let me hear it. Okay, so we've got the sniffer in the house who will pick it out. One of the things that has really changed that for us as far as collecting food waste is the bin that is being provided. And I know there's some more coming out in the Salinas Valley region for people to come pick up. It has holes in the top. And that keeps the food waste material, as Jenna mentioned, from going anaerobic, which means without air. That's when it starts to putrefy. That's when it starts to smell really bad. Those holes make a tremendous difference. And I am the laziest composter in the world. I hate to deal with it. So I just keep filling that bin until it's so full, like there's white mold growing on things. I put it out exactly 1 day a week. And I will tell you that during the week, we never smell the food waste. And that is merely because it's getting that air, and we don't have fruit flies. Again, if we had fruit flies in my kitchen, the party would be over. So I understand your concerns because, I live in a regular household just like you. I have the same issues that you or any other person would have. So getting the air to that, it really makes a tremendous difference on the ick factor. And for those of you who do have landscapers, I would really encourage you to tell them to throw a bag of grass in there, or I even tell them, because those carts are so large, that they can fill it up halfway with grass, or whatever you think the amount of room that you need left for for your residents is needed. But that makes a huge difference. My yard waste cart I've been using for years. In fact, 13 years I've had the same cart, and the whole year that I've been putting food scraps in there, the yard waste absorbs everything. My cart is not yucky. So I know there's a lot of concern about that. But it really isn't. If you can get that yard waste in there, it will make a tremendous difference in absorbing that. So just if you haven't tried it, there will be some tips and tricks and things, but that bucket with holes in it, or if you use the yogurt container, poking some holes in the top, it'll make a tremendous difference on keeping that from putrefying. And we do not have any fruit flies in the house as a result of the food waste being under our sink.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I wanted to just pull up so the bin Mary's talking about is this green one. And yes, there are some more coming for Salinas, Gonzales, Greenfield, Soledad, and King City. The county, if you are an unincorporated county area, there's plenty left to pick up from them. So we do have a very limited supply of these, and some of the cities are probably going to use them for multifamily, but we don't know exactly how many. We definitely don't have enough for every resident or especially every multifamily door. So so we have, like Julia had pointed out, our shared vision of, using your ice cream pail, etc. But these are some other suggestions. Use your takeout containers, and just when it's full, bring it down, empty it out. If it's a recyclable container and it's empty and clean, if it doesn't have any material in it, it can be put in the recycling. If not, you are already down there, you can put it in your trash. This is actually my trash drawer. I have this just hanging basket. It doesn't have a lid, so it has that aeration. We almost never have a problem with it. I put it in the dishwasher once every week or so. So there's these pictures. Another jurisdiction gave all of their residents a pitcher, and that's what they use for their yard waste. So these are just different suggestions of things to use. Keep a bowl in the sink, stick it in the dishwasher when you're done. I was at my friend's house, and she just was using the vegetable tray as she was chopping, and then took that out. So this is what we want to promote for especially a multifamily. Use what works in your kitchen, because not everything is going to work for anybody. And I know personally, this large green bin, it's beautiful, but it takes up a lot of counter space. So if you don't have counter space, especially, living in multifamily, it's hard to come by. So you want to make sure you utilize the space the best you can. So that's one of the reasons we promote doing what works for you. Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you again. I think I just have more comments than questions. And I apologize if my questions are more about single family residences, because they also run into similar problems. So the food scrap pill that you just showed, we have it. The city of Marina provides it to all the residents, and I love it. I used to have an open container, and the one with the lid, it fits under the sink in the cabinet, and I really like it. No smells, nothing. So I hope that that can be provided for.
Yeah, it's definitely not
everyone.
provided to all, but it
Yes.
was available. I think they're out of stock in the city of Marina. I'm not sure if they're purchasing anymore, but I'm glad that that's working for you.
Yes, that will be really helpful for everyone. My question is about, I read that cards can be exchanged annually. Are the cards that have been picked up, will they be reused? Will they be cleaned and reused?
Yes, they'll be cleaned and reused. We keep containers through their usable life. So unless they have obvious cracks or anything that we can't just damage by putting a new wheel on or a new lid on, it'll be cleaned and reused, maybe for a different property. What we generally do is just bring in a brand new container to your site that's the same size that you already had, and we take the old one and clean it. That's just more efficient for us and for you.
Yes, thank you. I hope they will be reused because it wouldn't make sense trying to be good with our composting materials and then wasting
Definitely.
plastics. So I know
Definitely not.
it's
They're
hard to
very
be.
expensive too, so we definitely try and get the most use out of them as possible. But good question.
Yeah, as a customer, I would not be. I would not mind receiving a clean reused bin. It's just so it doesn't need to be a new one. And I'll try to clean mine myself, but I know many people don't have that option. Same for the straw bales. I liked the suggestion to have a straw bale there to put some straw at the bottom. But of course, it takes energy to transport straw bales. So
Yeah, and we also want to just, I mean, that is definitely an option, but I don't want people to think they have to go purchase anything to make it work for them. So that's what, if you do have a landscaper, if you have a friend that's pruning trees, anything like that, that you can, utilize something that's already there. Let's feed the animals that need the straw.
yes, and especially, we do not want to raise fees or costs for, even if people need to start paying to have their bins cleaned, not everybody can afford that. So my last question was, earlier I spoke about maybe designing bins with a bottom that's up higher. Are you looking into that or not at all, or is there hope?
Well, I guess we don't have anybody from Green Waste on the call, do we, Kristen?
No, I noticed, yeah.
Yeah, so the question about swapping out carts for green waste, I'm not sure what their policy is. Liz was mentioning that for waste management. So I'm not sure about the green waste swap or cleaning. And I would imagine that Green Waste is not currently looking into different carts because we have so many in circulation. So unless there's a big change coming that I don't know of, it's hard to promote making a cart with a higher bottom because it's just wasted space. And then eventually the bottom is going to break and you have a void, and there's a whole litany of potential reasons for that. But I would imagine that as California goes forward with this 1383 and more people are utilizing food scraps, that eventually new materials and new marketing and new engineering will come up. So I would imagine none of our haulers at the moment are looking at anything drastically different, but I guess kind of stay tuned on that.
Thank you. I'll try to contact them directly. Yeah, I missed them on the call here. And I did have one more remark. I think you mentioned that you take your small pill to work. So that could be another option to look into.
You came out to the surf event, right? And you saw our worms there.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yes. So that's where I bring my food to feed the worms. We're not going to bring our food scraps to put in business bins because that would probably not work very well. So
no, but I know that before COVID, Marina had the option to drop off food scraps at the farmers market, and that stopped during COVID. But we might need to look into that again because that can be a solution for people who don't have yard waste.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for offering this, by the way, today. Very helpful.
Eileen, you had questions, comments?
Yes, another question. I'm sorry. It seems like residents, because I'm in Marina, residents in Marina get the yard waste bin included in their, or the organic bin included in the cost of garbage.
Yes.
But they are requiring multifamily units to pay extra for this bin. Now, I'm going to have a really hard time trying to convince people. Not only do you have to pay more, your rent's going to go up to collect this thing, and you have to sort. So I don't understand why it's included in residential, but it's not included in multifamily.
Yeah, and I want to be clear that we can't really talk about fees from our agencies, both Saline Valley Recycles and Regen. We don't set the fees for the haulers. Excuse me, and each hauler has their own structure, so everybody's a little bit different. Residential is a combined rate, so it's not that it's free as to add on to garbage, it's included. So residential is already paying for it, so that's the difference. Multifamily is only paying per stream, so they're paying for waste, and 4 recycling if they're going above and beyond whatever additional recycling is included in a waste charge. So because multifamily from the get-go, for most haulers, yard waste was an add-on service because a lot of landscape companies were taking the yard waste away. So it wasn't a service they wanted to pay for additionally because they didn't need it. But now it is a requirement, and now so it's getting added on. So single family dwellings have always, or single family service has always paid for the yard waste and recycling and garbage as a combined rate. So none of it's ever been free. And then with multifamily, it's now adding the additional service that they've never paid for in the past.
Since this is recorded and is being recorded, I just want to say for the record, in Marina, if you pay, I believe it's about $24 for weekly service, you get a yard waste, you get garbage, and you get recycles hauled away. But if you only have one green waste bin, you're paying $40 for multifamily, which means you don't get, so you're paying more than double, you're paying 3 times for one green waste bin. And then they're saying it's required by law, but to require people living in an apartment to pay more than people living in a residence. So $24 for single family home, you get the green waste bin, you get the recycle bin, and you get the garbage bin weekly service. For an apartment, you have to pay $40 and you only get one green waste bin. That doesn't seem quite right. And since this is being recorded, I just wanted to put it on for the record.
Yeah, I'll take that for the record. I don't know if any haulers or anybody wants to chime in on how the structure is coordinated, but for one, there isn't, well, I'm not going to go down a path that is not my my lane. So I hear you, and I know that costs are a big issue. So turn over to Maury.
And then I'll chime in too after Maury.
Okay, so I'm not going to chime in on that per se, but I am going to say that it does bring up another economic item to consider for multifamily complexes, and that is right sizing your service. So because there will be a portion of your waste stream that will be moved into another container, keep in mind that the most expensive portion of your waste stream is going to be what goes to the landfill. So if you have not been looking at the fullness of your dumpsters over the years, after you implement this service, now would be a good time. In many cases, we have a certain size dumpster, and we also have multiple pickups per week. So as this service rolls out in your multifamily complex, a really important thing to do is start watching how full your bins are, and if you have multiple pickups, whether you really need those multiple pickups per week. This can be an area where you can get a tremendous amount of cost savings if the dumpsters are not being used. This also goes for getting your residents to recycle right. If people are throwing huge boxes of cardboard into your trash dumpster because they just don't want to flatten them out, or they just are apathetic, this is really important because you're taking up a lot of airspace in that dumpster and you're paying the trash rate for a recyclable item. So this is a good time to start paying attention to that. Our goal as your outreach and education people for your waste hauler is to make sure that you're paying for, that maximized service and not paying for more service than you need. It means our trucks don't have to show up as often if it's being right sized, and it means that you're spending money on waste being disposed of, not air. So start paying attention to your trash dumpsters in general, and as this program rolls out in your complex.
That was also going to be my comment, is our goal is to reduce the amount that goes to the landfill, because that is the most expensive. Garbage will always be the most expensive, and recycling is going to be less. So the better that your residents can recycle right, and the more educated that they are, you'll see the trash start to go down, and then that's where a lot of those cost savings can come in. And then I'll let Liz take over.
Well, you both really said it best, but definitely just echoing what they're saying is, please have us come out for a visit. You know, that's what we're here for, is to come and see what you're generating. And you know, Christian and I have access to our smart truck footage, so we can do, if you would like, we can do like a visual audit remotely, and then we can also coordinate a time to come out to your property. I know, Eileen, you say you're in Marina, so Green Waste would be who you would need to get in touch with. But we're here to just reduce as much as possible, like Mallory and Julia have said, that's going to the landfill. That's the most expensive part. As far as the rates go, residential is bundled, but you think about the cost of, you know, a single family household is taking on that cost versus a multifamily. It's spread out over, say, 50 to 200 units. So that cost is more spread out on a multifamily scale. And multifamily is kind of a nuanced portion, right? It's kind of like a single family mixed with a business. So there's definitely, I'm glad that Julia is hosting this alongside Region, because multifamilies need special care and handling. But that's all I had.
Thanks, Liz. Well, with that, we're about 5 minutes to the hour. Are there any other questions or comments that anybody wanted to express while we're on the call? Okay, well, if you have any feedback on this meeting, or if you'd like to also spread the word, we are hosting another presentation similar to this one on June 22nd, and this one will be held at noon. So for those multifamily property managers and owners that couldn't be on this call, there is another one. So spread the word, June 22nd at noon. If you have any feedback on this presentation or want us to include any other information moving forward, please let us know. We've included links in the chat. We'll have this presentation available on our website once it's ready, along with the slides as well. So with that, I'll just go ahead and say thank you. Thank you to everybody who joined us on the call. Thank you for making this a priority, and thank you to the outreach teams for public agencies and waste haulers. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, Eileen, Eileen, you're on mute. Sorry.
I want to copy and paste what's in the chat, and I'm a little bit slow, so can you give
Okay.
me 2 or 3 minutes so I can copy and paste this?
Sure, no
Thank you.
problem. I'll let those who need to hop off go ahead and hop